you've got this, you've got this, you've got this. Giving myself a little pep talk. Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Kim Hamer and I help leaders deal with employee death. Now I know that's a really specific topic, but the nice thing is when you niche, you find out how applicable everything that you teach is to a larger group. So if you're a leader and you happen to stumble upon here, and you're an HR leader and you happen to stumble upon here and you haven't had an employee who's died, stick around because I think that the things that I talk about will be really helpful to you. All right, so today you are in the middle of a 3-part series all about employee well-being, especially through transitions. So the transitions, obviously the transition I focus on is death, but the transition could be mass layoffs, the transition could be coming back into work. And the question I always get from leaders is, how do I ensure my employees are going to be okay during this transition? How do I help them be okay without getting into their personal lives? So the 3-part series focuses on 3 specific things that you can do. There are a plethora of things that you can do. I love that word, plethora. There are a plethora of things that you can do, but I thought it'd be really helpful if you focus on 3. So the 3 that we're focused on is communication. We're focusing on employee resources today, and then we're focusing on memorializing. And I know you're thinking, Kim, my employee didn't die, so why would I memorialize? Look, memorializing is the act of moving on. It's the first step in moving on and transitioning into a life without. So if you can actually memorialize when you have just lost half of your team. You can memorialize the working from home and having to come back into work. So memorializing isn't just about death. All right, so when I did talk about the communications tips last week, I did break them down into 3 separate areas. One, the obvious, like things you just need to know to do, and many people do them, but I just thought it'd be good to cover the base. The second one I do is the not so obvious, which is things that some organizations do, but a lot of them don't, just because they didn't think about it. And the third is the not obvious at all, but great to do. And those are the things that just people go, oh my gosh, what a great idea. So that's how I broke it down last week, and that's how I'm going to break it down this week. This week, we are talking about employee resources. So we are talking about counselors or other outside resources to help your employees. Now, when I bring this up with my colleagues, fellow HR leaders, they always go, yes, we have an EAP, an employee assistance program. It's all good. And then I say, great. How does it help? What does it offer when an employee dies? And that's what I get. I get silence. They say, well, I think that they bring in grief counselors or the employees can contact someone. Okay, how many counseling sessions do they get when they contact someone? How long does it take them to find someone? So if they make the phone call, EAPs, you don't make the phone call and go, I want to talk to a counselor, and they connect you to a counselor. They take down the information, they find a counselor to you. What is the length of time between that conversation, right? Between the time when the employee calls in and when they actually get in contact with a counselor. These are all things that everyone needs to know. So that is the obvious answer, is when you're trying to provide your employees with resources, make sure that you understand the resources that are available to them in detail. And a kind of a not so obvious, but I'm going to throw it in this category at any rate, is make sure that you let them know more than once. I have run into so many leaders who are like, yeah, we gave them the information once in an email 2 weeks ago. Right? Look, we're all busy, we're all swamped, and when there is grief, when there is a transition happening, their brains are not fully engaged. And so doing it once doesn't cover the bases. One of the best things you can do is send out several reminders, make sure you give them specific instructions on how to sign in and what to do and what to expect. Look, even if they don't reach out to the employee assistance program, you are providing a sense of care that they really need and that they will appreciate. So that is the obvious way of taking care of employee resources. The second, not so obvious, is EAPs are great, but they're not everything. So, gather some outside resources for your employees to access. Sometimes there are grief groups. Lots of cities, all cities have grief groups, and sometimes they will, grief of the death of an employee, of the death of a coworker, can be part of that grief group. They can go in and have access to that, because groups are sometimes very helpful for some individuals. So making sure that you have some local resources available to your team as well is really important. When it comes to transitions and layoffs, look, we all have these career groups that will help, rewrite resumes and help your employees find jobs. But ask that group if they provide support for the people who are still working. There is a huge process when a group of people gets laid off. There's a lot of emotion that happens during that time, and that emotion actually mirrors grief. So making sure that you're taking care of the well-being of your team when there's a great layoff is really important, and check for local resources for that. The third way that is not obvious and great to do is don't say to your employees, take as much time as you need. Now, I know that we feel that we're doing a really good service to them when we say that, but we're not. And here's why. Because how much is enough time? For you might be thinking enough time is a week. For your employee might be thinking 2 weeks is enough time. And if you think it's a week and your employee thinks it's 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month, then there's a miscommunication, and that's where a lot of resentment can be built. So instead of saying take as much time as you need, talk to your employee and say, how much time do you think you're going to need? Ask them specifically for how much time they're going to need. Maybe one person's just saying, I just need a day. I'm good. I just need a day out of the office. Maybe someone's saying, I need to work half days for the rest of the week. Maybe someone's saying, I need 2 weeks off. This is triggering a lot of loss, my past loss in me. But the more you need to be very specific on what it means and how much time they need. And this is where I see so many leaders go wrong. Their heart is in the right place, right? They want to be supportive and they want to support their employees' well-being. So they say take as much time as you need, but that's too much. That's too wide. It's the same thing as, saying if you need anything, let me know, which is the least helpful thing you can say. So understanding, I'll leave the link to that video up there. So making sure that you set some parameters with your employees, especially when there's a death on the team and team members will need to take some time off to just kind of get grounded. Make sure that you all agree on the parameters of how much time is enough time off. Right? And I'm going to be really honest, there's no such thing as enough time off. Sometimes you need a few days and you just kind of need to chill out, and other times, other employees won't need that time off for 3 to 4 months. They're going to plow through work. It's how they're going to deal with the grief. And then all of a sudden, they're going to be like, oh my God, I cannot believe this person died. And they're going to want time off 3 months from now. So just keep that in mind as you go through that. So that is the wrap up for today's video. So we're talking about employee resources. We're talking about make sure that you know what specific things your EAP offers, and make sure that you give your team specific instructions on how to access the EAP and how long it will take. Number 2, make sure that you find local resources outside of your EAP to offer to access for your employees. And this is especially true for layoffs. If you have a team that has just dealt with layoffs, we're not talking about the people who've just been laid off, but we're talking about the people who are still in the office. If you have a team that's just dealt with layoffs, try to find some outside resources for them. And then the 3 is set parameters. Not take as much time as you need, but how much time will you need? That's a super helpful way to help your employees feel centered and grounded and like there's a foundation. All right, y'all, thank you so much for stopping by. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Subscribe. I'm so grateful that you are here, and I really, truly mean this. I want you to remember this. You matter. You really, really matter. All right, y'all, make it a great day. Bye.